had no interest in this show, but damn, after watching so many reviews tearing this first episode apart, I got curious. Also, the reviews reminded me of the ones I watched about the Nubia Real One comic, and that's really what piqued my interest. So here we are. This video is going to be a little different than my normal deep dive videos. Instead of addressing the issues with the story frame by frame, I'm instead going to talk about the characters and how their actions affect the story. I'm mainly doing this because I've only watched the first episode, and it was mainly the characters that left a profound impression on me. The story definitely had its issues, and I think what was a huge factor in how the show turned out, specifically the first episode, because that's all I watched, is a lot happens in that one episode, and that is a problem. I believe that the creator was too impatient. I get that there's that pressure to make the first couple of episodes as interesting as possible, specifically the first episode, to grab the audience's attention, but cramming too much in one episode can deter viewers just as much as not giving them enough to keep them engaged. There are other factors that unfortunately played a role in the final product, such as the questionable dialogue, the very rough editing of the show, but what I suspect was the biggest issue was the lack of confidence. You can kind of tell with the chemistry between the actors and how they delivered their lines, along with how some of the scenes was shot. Even with the writing, you can tell there was a confidence issue. Due to how fast-paced the story was, there was no room to breathe, there was always something happening, which honestly gave me whiplash because I genuinely thought I missed something between scenes, but nope, that's just how it was edited. In the end, the events of the first episode felt that it should have been the entire first season. Now let's talk about the characters. First up on the chopping block, Robyn. I get what the director was going for. A lot of times when the main character is a guy, the common trope is to present him somewhat of a player, with our first exposure of the main character often being in bed with a woman or getting caught in a catfight between two jealous women. Something along those lines. Here it's constantly told to us that Robyn sleeps around with both men and women. Her sister is first to reveal this fact to us, then her mother, and then Robyn tells her childhood friend that's been away that she's been with other people.
You were out late. Who with? Tyson, Amit,
Okay.
Lauren.
Speaking of which, I heard you come in late last night. Filled up the condom jar if you need a read.
You see anyone?
Nothing serious. You know, guy here, girl there.
Out of all the things that we could have learned about this character, why was that the #1 crucial thing that we took away from this episode? Also, I have to point this out, it drove me crazy. This girl is on the job delivering a package to a client. Yes, the client's a bit of an ass, but I would think she would still want to conduct herself with a bit of professionalism so people would take her seriously, even if it's just to deliver a package. The reason this bothered me is because she knows where the hell she's going. She knows that she's delivering a package to a very high-end business office, and she goes dressed like this. Even the receptionist is looking at her wondering what the hell was she thinking stepping into a building like this looking like that. I get that there's an argument to be made that she's self-confident and she doesn't care what people think. However, one could also make the argument that Robyn has no self-respect for herself. Given what we already learned about her character through her mom and her sister, I'm choosing to lean towards the latter. I'll be the first to say that the actress is a beautiful woman with a very nice figure, but why have your main character dressed so revealing to deliver a package? This does not invoke a strong female character like Sarah Connor, Eleanor Ripley, or Xena Warrior Princess like the director claimed he was trying to achieve. To me, this says that this character has no class. There's really nothing else to mention about this character because she's just that damn uninteresting. Robyn has no personality, and while I don't blame the actress per se, her acting does not help. She comes off very stiff and rigid. I can understand that it does take an actor a moment to get a good handle on their character, but this poor girl was given nothing to work with. When I'm thinking of Robyn Hood, I would describe the many adaptations of him as charming, brave, selfless, and cunning. As for this Robyn, I can't think of any other word to describe her except for maybe promiscuous. I guess I could work if she was shown being flirtatious or charming. It would at least tell us that she's a people person, but from what I've seen, she doesn't seem to like being around other people unless she's f***ing them apparently. It's concerning how easy it is to make fun and tear apart the main character just after one episode. Let's move on, I'm tired talking about this character. Now let's talk about the mother. I don't know if the creators did this on purpose or if they just didn't catch this until it was too late, but there's a parallel happening between Robyn and her mother. The mother has 2 daughters from 2 different fathers, and she's not in a relationship with either one of them, not to mention the infamous jar.
Speaking of which, I heard you come in late last night. Fill up the condom jar if you need a re.
It's clear the mother is enabling her daughter's promiscuous behavior, but you can also take that as her trying to prevent her daughter from making similar mistakes she possibly could have in her youth. Also, Robyn wants to leave Sherwood for greener pastures, but her mother is insistent that she stay and protest for their neighborhood. Robyn wants none of that, but given the state of her mother by the end of the episode and the inspiration of the show, it's pretty obvious what's going to happen is that Robyn's going to take up her mother's mantle and protest in her stead. See what I mean by parallels? We also get this scene where Robyn's friends are upset about her mother, which is understandable, but we never see them spending any time with her. In fact, they're never around when her mom's around, except for that one scene. Since it somewhat appears that Robyn's mom is the head of the community, I would think that they try to showcase that by having people hanging around their apartment because it's a safe place, and they look up to this woman. One more thing, the mom talks about community and having roots, but when she gets shot, where the f is that community? Why isn't there people coming by to give their condolences and bring homemade meals for the girls? That's what a community does for each other, but rarely do I ever see those kinds of examples anymore. As for the little sister, I feel so sorry for her. She's caught between a rock and a hard place between her mom and her older sister. Because Robyn dropped out of college, the expectation to succeed is now put on Jill. The mother blatantly makes that clear. Also, given how Robyn and her mom is constantly butting heads, it kind of feels like Jill is going along with her mom's protest just to keep the peace, because she doesn't want to cause any more stress to her mom that Robyn is already causing. It also doesn't help that after their mom is taken to the hospital, Jill is the one that has to keep her sister from making a scene and making the situation worse than it already is. If you read between the lines, Jill is the real victim in this episode. Now let's talk about the most unfortunate character in this entire first episode. From the moment Little John is introduced, it's pretty clear he's the main love interest, but it might take a few bodies to get there. Obviously, this absurd scene is for him to show off in front of the girl he likes because one decent shove and her ass is on the ground. This entire scene is just an embarrassment for both characters, not to mention the horrible voiceover with the grunting noises. It's not uncommon for studios to do voiceovers in editing, but damn. Personally, I feel that this character was introduced way too soon. It's a well-known trope that characters that are leaders are not allowed to show vulnerability around their subordinates. Robyn is obviously going to feel pressure to stay strong in front of her friends and family, and that's where the importance of Little John's character comes in. With him being the love interest, obviously Robyn's going to let her guard down around him, and the fact that they have history together is going to speed things up. If that is the importance of his character, then Little John should have come in when Robyn is at her lowest but can't express her frustration because everyone is depending on her. I would have thought since Little John's character is a soldier, he would not only be Robyn's emotional support, but he would also be used as a moral compass. Instead, after getting out of the army, he follows this woman around like a love-struck puppy, going along with whatever she wants, just for the hope that she'll put out for him, as she has done for half her neighbors.
Pathetic.
And here's the proof.
You meet anyone special in the army?
Not really. Why? You seen anyone?
Nothing serious. You know, guy here, girl there.
Right, me too. Girls, I mean, not guys.
They are in the middle of committing a crime, but Little John's gotta know right then and there if she's taken. What an absolute waste of a character. As for Robyn's companions, they're fine, but this guy... First of all, his character is annoying, and secondly, just like Lil Jon, he was brought in way too soon. Let the amateurs stumble around and find their feet first, and when they bite off more than they can chew, that's when the expert is brought in. Finally, we get to the villains. Honestly, watching this show brought back flashbacks when I was reading the comic Newbie a Real One. The police officers in the comic are portrayed similar to the ones in the show. The cops in the comic are Caucasian and are shown being prejudiced towards the main characters and her friends because they're black, and apparently that's the new normal standard representation for police officers. I've already made videos on why this type of portrayal of police officers in the comic was such an issue. However, I never thought I'd say this, but this show takes this issue to a whole new level.
This is private property. We can do whatever we want.
Nice mask.
Take it off. These hood rats want to play? Get the toys up!
When my men lose a drone worth more than their salaries combined, I expect a tale of heroic proportions. Instead, I get two morons who can't catch kids in Halloween masks.
We had to send in the hardware. Sherwood is no respect cops.
Like anyone could respect a pissant like you.
Give me 10 men. I'll go door to door. Get the drone, the kids, bring them both back in pieces.
Specifically, why is it this guy that looks like a specific ethnicity that is antagonizing these situations? At this point, I would prefer if the cops was blatantly racist. At least that would explain the actions of this character instead of implying the cops are corrupt. Because my god, does this come off as if the writers and director are the prejudiced ones and not just towards cops. I said this before in my Fixing Nubia video. Just because you have the same skin color as the community you claim to be representing, that does not exempt you from accidental or not portraying stereotypes. I don't know if anyone's mentioned this or not, but from everything I've seen between how the cops operate and the lawyer as well, I can't help but feel that what's being shown is a teenager's perspective of how they believe the law operates because they watch Law and Order. That's what the writing is coming off to me as. Overall, the villains aren't even real people at this point, just caricatures. Also, wouldn't it be more suspenseful if the cops were the main antagonists for the first couple of episodes and maybe show the son giving them orders, but then things start to get out of hand and that's when John Prince comes in and makes things harder for Robyn and her merry crew? Speaking of the merry crew, let's talk about this guy real quick. I don't know anything about him except he dresses nice. In fact, a lot of the men dress kinda nice, but the women, I can't help but wonder if there's some kind of deep-seated reason for that from the director. Now I want to talk about Munch. From my understanding, she's a mechanic and maybe a hacker, I don't know. To my knowledge, her talent is natural. I don't think she's gone to school for this kind of stuff. This could be a great setup for her character wanting to pursue further education on these subjects. This would be a great message telling that it's never too late to want to pursue a career. This would also be really good for Robyn's character by showing her reservation of wanting Munch to stay, similar to her mother wanting her to stay, but eventually gives Munch her blessing and encourages her to leave and follow her dream. Maybe that's when Frybrain Tuck comes in to replace Munch, or maybe he's the one that saw her potential and encouraged her to pursue an education. I know this is only the first episode and I don't know much about the character, but what I'm trying to emphasize is that the potential is there. If only the people in charge of the show cared more about the story itself and gave more attention to its characters rather than continuing to perpetuate these nonsensical stereotypes that affect both police officers and black people. Not to mention, shows like this further divide and hurt what is already a sensitive and fractured relationship between these two groups. To be fair, to my knowledge, the director was not promoting this series based on those things, unlike Ella McKinney with her comic. That was her entire selling point. However, the director was quick to change his tune when the show started to get negative ratings. I get that he has to defend the show because it would look bad on him if he didn't and make studios think twice before hiring him. But why is this always a default? Why is attacking the audience and blaming them always a default when a movie or show isn't popular? I get that we want praise for the things that we create, but that's no excuse to attack people for having opinions. Yeah, there are people that like to troll and be a dick, but that's still no excuse to accuse the majority of negative reviews for being, you know the word. This just makes the director look immature, but given what I've learned about him and the fact that he goes by the name Director X, that does make me wonder if he's trying to emulate a certain someone with that name. Anyways, he should have been the bigger person because that's what it means to be a professional in any profession. Overall, when it comes to the story, it was obviously not well executed, but there is potential. Every story has potential, you just have to be willing to put in the effort to refine it, so it makes sense. In fact, let me give a quick summary of how I would have arranged this story based on the first episode. First off, Robyn should have been the soldier. That would have been more in line with the story of Robyn Hood. To my understanding, he went away to fight and when he came back, his family was gone and his neighbors was impoverished. This is what inspired him to steal from the rich and give to the poor. He was righting the wrongs and giving back what was unfairly taken. There's your f***ing story. Robyn joins the military because she wanted to get away from Sherwood and she successfully did. But for reasons unknown or yet to be revealed, she comes back and finds her neighborhood has drastically changed. And her neighbors are being bullied for whatever reason and John Prince is behind it. She uses what the military taught her, gets her merry crew together, and starts pushing back. Maybe the lawyer helps and is Robyn's eyes and ears within the justice system, and maybe they get a little close because of this. Things start to improve for a while, but then John Prince and the sheriff throws a curveball. Maybe it's the shooting of Robyn's mom, causing her to second guess herself, and that's when little John comes in the picture. He takes the reins for a while so Robyn can take care of her family. This causes her to see him in a new light, which complicates things with the lawyer. However, Robyn notices that little John operates differently due to his own demons he's dealing with, which causes them to butt heads, but because they're both soldiers, they manage to work it out and bond over talking about their experiences, which helps them heal from whatever they're holding on to. Now that everyone's on the same page, they come together as a group to take on John Prince and the corrupt sheriff. When doing these kinds of videos, I try to be considerate because I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I don't know what kind of words are being exchanged. I'm just watching the final product, and to be honest, it looks like a college assignment. Nothing from the show feels professional, and it's pretty damn clear that the problem started very early. Specifically with the script, because the writing was abhorrent. The dialogue was dialogue. It didn't feel natural, and most of the line deliveries felt that they were being read off a script and not having a conversation. The actors Ian Matthews and Lisa Michelle Cornelius were the only two actors that was decent in my opinion that delivered their lines with some authenticity. The dialogue was still shit, but at least they put in the effort to try to convince you. As for the director, I learned something very interesting. This man is credited for working on more than 100 music videos. This means he has years of experience in the music industry, which means he's got to have known a lot of people who are just as experienced in the field and should be at their peak in this industry. Am I really expected to believe, with all that experience under his belt, this is the best he could do? That this right here is an accumulation of all that experience? I can only think of two reasons why this turned out the way it did. One, he realized just how much off the rails this show was going, and if he already got paid, why do anything but the bare minimum? Or two, he's a hack. There is a third option. 3, he didn't give a shit to begin with, and he's a hack. As for that infamous song, I'm curious to know what led to the hiring of that artist. Again, the director supposedly has years of experience in the music industry, so he's got to know a bunch of talented artists. But this is who they chose to create the show's theme song?
Run it, run it, run it, run it, run it, run it, run it. You know we run this, run this.
I'm in my zone now, Sherwood is home now. You know we running this, but you don't wanna cause we...
Again, I can only think of two reasons why this happened. One, they were working with an extremely low budget and the artist was cheap. Or two, there was some nepotism involved with the artist of the song. Final thoughts, I can't help but feel that something suspicious was happening behind the scenes. This show, this first episode, is too unpolished for there not to have been a problem. Someone was not doing their job. Whatever the case, it's done and over with. This one really got under my skin, mainly because I just felt so sorry for the actors. Whenever something doesn't work out, it unfortunately does affect the actor's career, regardless if they're vets or newcomers. I wish them the best of luck. That will do it for me. Thanks for watching, and I'm curious to know what you guys think of this show, if you watched it. If you didn't, I'd still like to know what you think. Like all things, this will pass. Thanks again for watching, and like and subscribe.